Yes, folks, it's time for another action figure review here on the MoDXtra Games and Collectibles channel. I've had a pre-order drop on the doorstep just the other day. It's the Marvel Legends X-Men Animated Series Jubilee. Let's take a closer look. Here we are then. Here is the X-Men Animated Series Marvel Legends Jubilee figure in box. They're keeping the VHS packaging motif. We've seen that already with Wolverine and Mr. Sinister, and it is continuing here with Jubilee. Loving that nostalgic retro vibe that it's creating, and helping that out, of course, is this fantastic Dan Wiesenmeyer X-Men Animated Series style artwork on the front cover. Really loving this kind of sparkly firework effect. Here. Is that an Omega Red tentacle? Maybe, maybe not, who knows? And all the other nostalgic elements as well that they've tied into the packaging just to really hit the note with adult collectors like me, like the little Marvel Comics box with the character face in the top corner there, and then they've replicated that on the side. I also particularly like the little semicircle down here, which is like the old finger cutaways on the sleeved VHSs that you used to get back in the day, which is really sweet. So very eye-catching, lots of shelf presence if you're an in-box collector, although obviously one of the downsides of this new plastic-free packaging means that you can't see the figure inside, which I think is often a part of the kind of mint-in-box collector folks' experience. But there we go. Let's have a quick look at the back. And here you can see they've got a digital render of Jubilee on the back in a kind of pose, demonstrating what you can do with the figure. A little bit of blurb here. Jubilation Lee is the newest member of the X-Men, able to project plasma fireworks from her hands with explosive results. That's there, replicated in several different languages. And then you've got all the legal malarkey here across the bottom. So that's all wonderful. Now let's get it open. I'll get my finger in there. Now these plastic-free packaging figures are in a kind of cardboard sleeve, which I'm pulling out here now. We've got a few bits in the bottom there as well. Ooh, paperwork. So in this little bag here, let's have a look what we've got in there. A few accessories by the looks of it. Let's squeeze them down to the mouth of the bag. And we have a swappable head. A couple of different sets of sunglasses. And a few energy effects for her hands. That's pretty awesome. Nice little selection of added value extras there. And the figure itself is held in by this little cardboard fold over, and is also in one of these kind of paper style bags. And if we slide Jubilee out there, comme ça. Oh, she's got a little bit of cardboard around her legs there too. Let's get rid of all that. And there we go. And there we are. There's Jubilee out the packaging with all her accessories. Right, I'm going to go away and get her posed up, have a little bit of playtime, see how she sits next to Wolverine and Sinister on the shelf, and then I'll come back in a few days and record my review. And here she is, the Marvel Legends X-Men Animated Series line Jubilee. All unpacked. It's been a couple of days since I did the unboxing section of this video, and I've gone away and done my usual routine. If you're a regular around these parts, you'll know that I like to pose them up, take some photos, have a bit of playtime. She's been chilling on my shelf for a little bit as well with my Wolverine and my Marvel Legends standard line Rogue and Gambit, and now I'm here ready to share a few thoughts. So I'm going to follow my usual pattern of review. I'm going to start with aesthetic, then move on to articulation, and then talk about accessories, what I refer to on the MoDXtra Games and Collectibles channel as the 3 A's. So let's get into it, shall we? Okay then, so how does Jubilee look? And I would probably say Jubilee looks all right, decent. She's not blown me away like some other figures have done, and there's reasons for that, but overall, in terms of the intention of triggering those retro nostalgic vibes, she's got everything that you would be looking for in the figure. I mean, I've not done a side-by-side comparison with a screenshot from the cartoon or anything, but we've got the short black hair, we've got the long yellow overcoat, the gloves, the red top, the blue denim shorts, you know, all the stuff that in your mind's eye you remember. The colour schemes seem pretty accurate to my casual observations. Again, I'll reiterate, I've not done a side-by-side comparison or anything. There are some aspects of the way it looks that fall short. I'll point those out in just a moment. But overall, in terms of evoking that image from the cartoon as part of the X-Men Animated Series line, yeah, is there or thereabouts. Now, the first thing I think I've got to address in terms of the way the figure looks, the aesthetic of the figure, is the cell shading effect. They've chosen to use this cell shading effect on the Marvel Legends X-Men Animated Series line, and it's been a point of much debate in the collector community. So I've pulled her in a bit closer so that those who are on the fence or want to get a look at what the cell shading looks like can see. You'll notice there's a big patch here across the top of her right shoulder and right arm. If I peel the jacket back a little bit, you can see a large patch down her right-hand side across the top and her denim shorts. There's a big patch of cell shading in an unusual shape here across the left shoulder. And then we've got some cell shading here on the left-hand boot as well. And I think that's it. The cell shading on the coat in particular is very curious. It's a strange kind of mustardy yellow that they've chosen to use that sort of really stands out, especially when the rest of the paint scheme, the yellow coat, the yellow gloves, the red top, the denim shorts and the blue boots are very vivid and sort of in that cartoony pure colour palette. So I don't think that was a good solid choice, and it definitely stands out to me a lot more on the Jubilee figure in comparison to the Wolverine and the Mr. Sinister that I've already got in hand. Otherwise, it's quite subtle down here. Taking a closer look here at the head and face area, and again, like with the rest of the figure, it's all right, it's decent, but it's not without its flaws. We've got good paint applications on the lips and the eyes and the eyebrows, and a nice little touch of detail here with the earrings, which are all equally as neatly applied as well. Looks good, splash of colour, little bit of sparkle for Jubilee. We've got good contours around the cheeks, the nose, the chin, the facial shape. It looks like Jubilee from the cartoon, which is what they're going for. It's just a bit expressionless and a bit bland. Arguably a little boring even. I'd have liked something a little bit more, and the head swap, which we'll have a look at when we get to accessories, isn't really filled with much more life either, which is a shame, So it's all good stuff. One thing I will also point out is that I feel like the skin tone is a bit shiny, a bit plasticky. I know they're going for animated look skin tones with this line, as well they should, but it's come out a bit plasticky in the face on Jubilee, so that stood out. One thing that is really tip-top, though, is the hair. Check the hair out. Look at the detail in there. Brilliant. They're really smashing it out the park, Marvel Legends, with their hair. I've got to give it to them on the hair front. It could maybe have benefited from a little bit of a wash, but let's face facts, she's a teenager. There's not going to be any flecks of grey in there, is there? That's a full-coloured youngun's hair. What am I chuttering on about? But yeah, the detail, look at that. Outstanding. One thing around the way the figure looks that is particularly egregious for me specifically, and I'd love to know in the comments down below if anyone else has encountered this, I've got a major paint application error here. Look on the arm. On this right arm, can you see there? I've got a weird bit of yellow paint going all the way down, and then the skin on the top half, massive splodge of yellow, like taking up the whole space there. That's a big tisk, isn't it? In the main body as well, the look and feel of it is pretty much where you'd expect it to be. We've got some nice contours and creases in the coat and the top and the shorts here, which give it a bit of depth and a bit of texture. You can really see it in the coat on the back. All these kind of sweeping creases in the coat, especially prominent in the back there. We've also got the rolled up tops of the gloves on the sleeves, and the boots are all right. They're just kind of painted on. They're fine. The bottom half stands out to me in terms of the figure aesthetic, though. I don't like this gap here in the groin area. I feel like the legs sort of fit onto the figure a bit funny. I can't explain it. I've got many female Marvel Legends figures, and that's never really stood out to me as much as it has done with Jubilee. Perhaps that's because I'm a more recent collector, and I'm more used to more contemporary molds, and this is reusing an older mold, perhaps. I don't know. Again, maybe a more long-standing collector can jump in and enlighten me on that. And then the pins on the knees really stand out. I don't know whether it's because of the skin tone, because it's a skin section and not a an actual trouser leg or something. But that's affecting my enjoyment of the overall visual experience that Jubilee is offering. So there you go, really. That's the top and the bottom of it. I'm sticking with, to use the language before, of all right, decent. It's okay. It looks the part enough, but I feel like it's not without its flaws. Let's now get into the articulation, and we're going to start with above the shoulders here. Good range of motion in the head. It's on a ball joint with a hinge in the neck, so we've got good up, we've got good down, we've got some decent 360 exorcist all the way around, although as you could see the collar restricted that movement a little bit, so I had to sort of tilt it up. And while I'm on the subject of tilt, we've got some good tilt either side as well. There's also a weird, there's like you can bring it sort of forward like this and back like that, which I noticed when I was posing her up. I kind of had her head sort of oddly down like a hunchback in a couple of the photos, and I had to redo them, so that's one to be on the lookout for. But yeah, the range of head motion is pretty good, although the hinge in the neck stands out to me because it's just really visible when you got it all the way up like that, which I'm not always a fan of. I find that a little ugly, but yeah, that's a personal preference thing. It's practical. What else were they going to do, you know? Getting into the shoulders and the arms now, and there's some very weird stuff going on here. There's no butterfly joint in the shoulders for a start, which I've become very accustomed to with more modern figure moulds, so that's a shame. And the shoulders kind of come up to a decent T, so it's okay for motion in that direction, but there's a bit of restriction with not having that there. It's also a single elbow joint, so we can only get Jubilee's arms up to this midway point here. Although, and here's where one of the weird freaky things happen, is because of the way they've done the joint, you can bend her elbows back and look like she's had a horrific accident. And it's on both sides too. See? It's like that girl crawling out the telly in The Ring. It's freaky. So that's a bit odd, and sometimes I find myself when posing her, I sort of knock it back, and then I realise that the arms are looking very unnatural and uncanny. But we've got full 360 motion in the shoulders as well, just to point that out. But yeah, that really stood out to me. And then in the wrists, we've got two different wrists here. We've got the back and forth in the right hand side, and then we've got up and down in the left-hand side, which is a curious choice as well, and it limits some of the posability when you're trying to use one of the kind of energy effect accessories. I feel like the tilt is better than the up and down, but that's just a matter of personal preference, I suppose. On the main torso, there's 2 points of articulation. We've got the joint here just under the chest line, and then the waist as well. This joint in the middle, it gives a little bit of ab crunch forward, but not a great deal. But there is some ab crunch backwards as far as you'll go with the restrictions of the jacket. But it does have some decent tilt and some swivel, and then there's swivel in the waist as well. Pretty standard stuff nowadays. Then into the legs, we've got a decent forward and probably a decent back, but once again, the jacket is restricting our options there, and we've got some good can stuff going on. I'm really not into this strange gap lines here in the joints. I feel like it makes her look very uncanny valley from the waist down, but there you go. We've then got swivel at the top of the thigh. We've got a double jointed knee there, although that mine's a bit stiff out the box, and keeps springing forward there. Interesting. I didn't notice that when I was posing her up the other day. And then the top of the ankle, at the top of the boot there, and then loads of movement here in the feet, forward and back, side by side. This left leg area, I don't know, again, if this is just specific to me or not, but a very, very shaky, wobbly joint here. Very shaky, wobbly joint. Feels a bit loosey-goosey and not quite right. And if I sort of peel that to there, maybe you can see some of the stress marks that I've already got on it after owning it for just over a week. So yeah, a bit concerning, the leg area there too. In fact, there might be an email going to Hasbro with the paint and the dodgy leg. Well, we'll see what happens with that. Did I keep the box? I don't know if I kept the box. On to the accessories now then. I'm going to start with the 2 pairs of sunglasses. We've got an opaque set, and then we've got a more transparent set of the classic sort of pink visor shades that Jubilee wore in the cartoon. These fit really well, very smooth experience. There's little grooves to guide the glasses over the ears, and then they fit very neatly across the top of her nose. So very happy with that. There's the opaque set, and there is the pink transparent set. Same design, just with the transparent look to them. Although, once again, bit of quality control commentary here, Hasbro. My right lens,
has got a little scratch on it. There's then a head swap. This is with the sunglasses kind of propped up across her forehead there, moulded into the head sculpt. And this is a standard head swap procedure. You just pop one off and pop one on. And there we go, there's the second head sculpt there. I really like this one, actually. Despite the expressionless, kind of bland face thing going on, which I find a bit boring, I really love the kind of ruffled up hair and the level of detail there. That's taken the hair detail to another level. So this is probably the one I'm going to carry on using with Jubilee on the shelf. I'll just do a little swivel there so you can kind of get the full experience. So also, with her glasses propped up on her head there, more in line with what I picture in my mind's eye from my memories of the cartoon, and it's possibly the same for some of you guys watching this vid. And then finally, we've got some energy effects for our hands, 2 of them in total, little kind of pink splodgy things. I have to admit, I've got a couple of gripes with these. Firstly, I don't feel like they reflect her powers the way I remember them. They're not kind of sparkly, fireworky blasts. They're like splodgy, swirly energy things, which doesn't seem to sit right with me entirely. And then, I can't quite figure out what I'm supposed to be doing with putting these on the hands. And possibly, again, let me know in the comments down below, because this could just be some muppetry of the highest order on my part. I think they're supposed to swivel around the arms like this. And like this, making a kind of overall look with the 2 energy hands going off there. But I could have that completely wrong. I just, for whatever reason, my brain seems to have a bit of a deficit when it comes to figuring out the logistics of putting those on our hands. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm putting them on upside down, back to front. I tried all sorts of combinations. But ultimately, that aside, the practicalities of it aside, I just don't feel like they reflect her powers the way I remember them being. She was like sparkly firework kind of things. Those don't look like sparkly fireworks to me. However, in terms of added value, it's nice to have some energy effects in for the hands anyway. So there you go. And here we go, here's Jubilee, all finished up now, making her way around on the turntable. This is the type of pose that I've had her in on the shelf next to my Wolverine. Obviously next to Wolverine. One final note of feedback. I've noticed, actually, you see that I've had to place one of her feet at a slight angle. She's not a great independent stander, is Jubilee. She's a toppler. She falls over randomly of her own accord just when someone breathes a bit too heavy near the shelf. So that's that's something of note, which I think is quite typical of these older style sort of teenage female molds that Marvel Legends have been using in the past and have reused here with Jubilee. Not having an older one, I can't do a side-by-side comparison, but I'd be very interested to know if you have both, whether you could provide a few thoughts on that in the comments down below. However, my overall kind of final thoughts are, she's all right. She's all right. I've not been as impressed or pleased with her as I have been with the Wolverine and the Mr. Sinister from the line. And other more recent female Marvel Legends figures that I've picked up, like Captain Carter, which, I didn't review all that favourably overall, actually, in the grand scheme of things anyway, but I preferred Captain Carter to this Jubilee figure. It just seems a bit shakier, a bit flimsier, a little bit looser around the edges, not quite to the standard that I've come to expect. And I think for the price that I'm now paying for them, I've not got good value out of my figure aesthetically, and I don't think I've got good value out of my figure in terms of articulation. And honestly, I don't think you get good value in terms of the accessories, but by Marvel Legends standard, it's at least a little bit better than what we normally get. So yeah, it's middling. It's a middly review. I'm not entirely unhappy, and I think she ties up the display. And you can't have a animated X-Men display without a Jubilee in it. That would just be, a massive omission. But I feel like there should have been more to the figure. I think this kind of just repaint, reissue of a much older version of a figure has missed the mark. So there we go. That'll wrap it up there. If you've enjoyed my review today, then folks, please do take the time to give me a like and subscribe to the channel. I know from the stats that there's like 80% of you out there who are watching who are not subscribed to the channel. If you like games and collectibles like me, and you're just a massive adult stroke child who lives life through their nostalgia, then perhaps this is the channel for you. We look at board games, we look at action figures, we look at collectibles, trading cards, comic books, anything that reminds me of being a child, I'll talk about on this channel. All right, well, thanks so very much for watching. It's been a pleasure reviewing Jubilee from the Marvel Legends X-Men Animated Series line with you today. Have a great day, and I'll see you around these parts in another video sometime soon.